Welcome to another episode of Ecom Experiences, a podcast for e-commerce marketing leaders who want to grow and scale their brands faster. Join us as we interview some of the smartest brand founders and marketing leaders in the industry. Explore the lessons they learned, discover the keys to their success, and discuss what excites them most about the future.
Hi, it's Samir Balwani here, host of Ecom Experiences, where we talk to brand founders and marketing leaders about their experiences growing brands. This episode is brought to you by Query. Query is a paid media agency that helps brands balance brand awareness and performance marketing to drive predictable and profitable growth. To learn more about how we can help you, visit weareqry.com. I'm really excited about our guest. I have Jennifer Peters, the Senior Manager of Ecommerce from OLLY here today. I've loved our conversations. Your depth of knowledge and everything you do is really inspiring. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, so let's start with the easy stuff. So tell me more about OLLY and what you do there.
Yeah, sure. So OLLY, a lot of times people don't immediately recognize the brand, but the way I describe it is if you've ever been in a Target store and you've walked in and you've turned right, we're always on the first end cap. So we're primarily a gummy vitamin brand, but we do have other formats as well. And we're known for our beautiful packaging and our super delightful products that work really well too, but they're also very tasty and fun to take. So that's sort of like the brand that we are. I've been at OLLY for 3 years and I run the direct-to-consumer e-commerce program at OLLY.
I love that. I know. I love the OLLY brand because it's always the color, beautiful packaging. It it fills up the whole wall and it acts as a billboard, which is all the way exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
Exactly. I always say with creative, our products in a lot of ways, they're so beautiful, they sell themselves.
I love that. I love that. And so tell me more about the role. So you cover all things D2C. What does that entail? What fits in your world?
I think D2C is tricky, and it is because I think it requires multiple skill sets and lots of different kinds of experience. So I do everything from beginning to end, including retention. That includes warehouse management, inventory management, web development, online messaging, retention as far as email, SMS, loyalty, content management. And then you kind of get into the whole compliance piece and then the business ownership as well. Like we own, as a channel owner, I own the entire P&L, which also includes shipping and delivery and last mile experience and all of that in between. So a lot of times I'll just say I do everything for D2C except for paid. That's one thing I don't do. I don't do paid acquisition. Everything else that's kind of in that bucket is all me.
That's amazing. That is a huge purview and a lot to really cover off on. So I almost want to ask you what your favorite part of the role is, but I'm going to ask you what are your favorite parts of your role?
I honestly, I think there's two things. One, this business is constantly changing. There's always things to learn. There's always new tech. There are always solutions that can solve a problem that you haven't even really been able to define clearly, that as soon as you see the solution, you're like, yes, that's amazing. So I think the speed of development and how fast everything changes, especially with generative AI, you kind of see all these really quick, really fast changes to the business overall. And I think that's really exciting. But the other piece I really love about my role is that every day is different. And, there's some days that you have fires that are related to your warehouse or inventory outages or UPS might go on strike, or you're just working on a really cool, design project. So everything that happens in my day, it's very different day to day. And I really love that. I sort of thrive in that environment.
That's really interesting. That's awesome too. So I can only imagine the kinds of fires that you're dealing with in the world. So you talked a little bit on generative AI. I'd love to kind of click into there and learn more about kind of what are you seeing in that world and what are the areas of your job that it's impacting the most?
At OLLY, I would say, first of all, we are a vitamin and supplement brand. So that is a really important thing to remember. We are highly regulated. Everything we do and say is regulated by the FDA. So we have to be really, really careful. And every single message we put out, every single image we put out runs through our regulatory department. So using AI for the really obvious front end pieces doesn't necessarily make that much sense for us. So we're never going to use it to write product descriptions. We're never going to use it to write ad copy. We're never going to use it to generate ad images. That's just not something that is really for us. And I know a lot of brands are doing that, and it's great. And I'm sure it's a huge time saver. But because of the regulation piece for us, it's just not really on the table.
Yeah.
However, there are things that AI can do in the background in terms of sorting and rating customers, in terms of like like low quality, high quality, that people can't do in that kind of real-time speed. So the ways we're using AI are more around the back end kind of problems and back end analysis, because the kind of analysis that AI can do is wildly different than what you can do as an insights team maybe 60 days later, and now you can't use the information. So being able to get this information about customers and their behavior kind of in real time is helping us to be able to drive conversion on site, and also to personalize the site in ways that without that kind of AI brain, we wouldn't really be able to do.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I imagine it's probably impacting conversion rate and then retention side as well too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys are able to identify, customer segments that are really interesting, or like buying
Yes.
behaviors, and identify, changes there. That's really exciting. So I'm so curious about the challenges that you're looking at as you look ahead. So what are the things that, proverbially keep you up at night? What are the things that, you are most thinking about in terms of things that you need to solve to achieve your goals for the year?
That is the great question. And it's probably very similar for a lot of people in the e-commerce space, but one is the cost of acquisition.
Mhm.
It gets higher every day. It's more challenging every day. So that's a piece that, you have to kind of look for those opportunities where you can play, where maybe your competitors can't play as well. And always looking for a different angle and a different way to get in there and acquire those new customers. So that would be the first one. Second one is shipping prices. Like every year, shipping prices increase and it eats into your margin. And in the Amazon world, customers don't want to be charged for shipping either. Like 20 years ago, shipping used to be a revenue line on people's P&Ls. And now
Yeah.
it's just the cost of doing business is eating your shipping costs. So as prices increase out there with fuel prices increasing and surcharges, it gets a little harder every year to be profitable and still kind of meet the customer's expectation of shipping. So that is, I think, a really difficult piece. And a last one, in the world of privacy, the world is changing really quickly. And there are a lot of states doing their own, kind of going their own ways on consumer data privacy. And it's a lot to keep up with because every state is different and every state has different requirements. And that, while it's not a threat, in fact, I think it's awesome. I mean, customers' data should be protected. It should be kind of the holy grail of the things that you have that you have the most limited access to, and is something that kind of like, not that you would die to protect, but you know what I mean. Like we
Yeah.
know it's really important. I think just managing the day to day of the different laws is really challenging, and it doesn't feel like it's going to get any easier anytime soon.
Yeah, it's almost like we wish for a federal regulation where
I
it's
kind
like
of do.
one across the
If
board.
I could have one footer page for a privacy policy, that would be so awesome. But now it's
Yeah,
like
not California,
California,
Colorado.
Colorado, Virginia. Like I've got a whole footer full of privacy pages.
I know it's interesting because we think about it too, and we talk about it. We're actually in the middle of writing a whole piece of content around first party data, and
Mm,
the reason why it's become so important, and why you need it for your campaigns. And privacy is definitely the leading factor around it.
for
Third party
sure.
data is going away, and it's becoming harder just because of the uncertainty around it. You don't know what you're allowed to use and how you're allowed to use it, and you don't want to have to deal with the legalities and the compliance, especially a brand like OLLY doesn't you don't want to be on a regulator's radar to begin
No,
with, right?
absolutely not.
So like I get that 100%. I'm so curious to hear more about the shipping, because I agree with you. Shipping containers, shipping cost,
Mhm.
it continues to go up, and Amazon has definitely spoiled everyone with
Yes.
free next day shipping, 2 day shipping, and in some cases same day shipping. How do you guys compete with that? What is your thinking around that?
We are an omni-channel business. So there are multiple channels where our customers can shop, including brick and mortar. At the end of the day, we're still foundationally a brick and mortar business that is very active and growing quickly in the digital space. Luckily for us, in each channel, our customers are a little bit different. So that has been a huge help because we don't have a lot of channel conflict. Not like other brands that I've worked on where, you kind of have like the e-commerce people have a beef with the sales team and the sales team has a beef with Walmart.com. And, so I think we're really lucky to be in a space where all of our customer segments are a little bit different. And the reasons they shop in different channels are also different. It is really hard to compete with Amazon. It is really hard to compete with that, like, I want it right now mindset, especially with Gen Z. I think Gen Z's expectations of when things should arrive are pretty wild because they grew up with it. I mean, I didn't, so I still think it's really cool every time. But, the expectation of the younger generations is that I should be able to get this immediately and at the best price. So I think for OLLY.com, the key has been figuring out how to offer different things than Amazon offers and making it a more personalized experience, making it a more meaningful experience with our brand. And if you come to OLLY.com, you are pretty dedicated to the brand already. If you are shopping there, I think that kind of shows these are the brand loyalists. These are the ones that are most committed. So we really do everything we can to offer surprise and delight to those customers. We have a great loyalty program with a lot of rewards. We personalize their experience. We've got a lot of triggered messaging around replenishment. And I think the discounting around subscriptions is a huge benefit for us as well. So subscriptions are a big part of our business. The beautiful thing about the vitamin segment is that people don't change brands a lot. Once they find something that works, they stick with it because obviously that's how you're supposed to take vitamins, is take them every day consistently. So that I think has helped us a lot. And the subscription business is really important to us. And while Amazon has that too, ours is much more personalized. And then we also, as a backup, have replenishment messaging with SMS and email where we know how many servings are in our product. So even if you're not a subscriber, we're going to send you an SMS a week before you're going to run out of product, just to remind you it's time to refill. So, I think that there's a lot of opportunity when you own your own database of customers, especially with retention, that we have as an advantage as a D2C channel that Amazon really doesn't. And our other channels, our other online channels like Walmart.com and Target.com, they don't necessarily have that agility either to be able to really kind of talk one-to-one with customers wherever they are at that moment.
It's interesting because like hearing you talk about all the customer experience elements that you guys have installed, it almost when you put it up against a matrix of where free shipping is, and then you can do this and this and this, and it's almost like it's okay to lose on the shipping side because you win on all of these other elements, and it's kind of this holistic experience that matters so much more than just individual this and this.
That's how you have to think of it too. I think otherwise you'll just drive yourself crazy.
Yeah. And I know you touched on CAC increasing, which is a consistent conversation that we have. I'm so curious, owning the site and owning retention, how are you guys looking at it from that perspective, knowing that it is a lot harder to bring someone to the site and ultimately convert them into a customer?
On our side, we've invested a lot of resources and time in the ways that we can convert customers on site. We are a retention machine. We are really good at retention. The trick is with the CAC costs increasing so much, it's harder and harder to get new customers to your site, especially when they're very price conscious. So they may be looking at where can I get the best price? And so that piece, I think, it's always going to be a challenge to get new customers. And as our brand has grown in awareness, it's getting more challenging. I mean, probably 2-3 years ago, it was just like constant new customers because, it was the first time they've seen OLLY. It was the first time they've, heard about the benefits of a product. And there were just so much. But as we have grown in awareness and penetration, it's becoming more and more difficult to find customers who are like, oh, I've never heard of that before. That sounds great. So that's challenging. I think the things that we can control are the site experience, understanding which customers are high intent and which customers are low intent, being able to discount around that and be able to provide kind of in the moment discounting in order to keep people from bouncing that maybe are more lower intent or are very price conscious. So we've got some great tools that we use. Vandra AI is what we use for the discounting, and it is super cool. It's a pretty new company, but does like real-time discounting based on, the intent of the customer, and we love it. And then we have a bunch of other tools that we use too to just kind of enhance and personalize the customer experience. So we are really focused on what is our conversion rate on site while we kind of, let our marketing team drive the traffic. And of course, we want high quality traffic.
Yeah.
But the things that my team controls is like what happens when the customer gets to the site. Like that's what we manage for the most part.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that customer experience has definitely been kind of the theme of today's interview, and it's one that I think people forget. In terms of like part of the reason why CAC is rising is because customer experience has become more important than ever before, and people have more choices than ever before, and so it's led to this level of competition that we've never seen before. And so, I love that. I'm so curious, what are you excited about? We talked about challenges. What are you excited about for 24? Where are you
Oh my
putting a lot
gosh.
of energy and happiness around?
I like to think of this at OLLY on the e-commerce side as like our year of efficiency. We're driving towards optimizing and driving efficiency within all the areas that we operate in our business. My first couple of years at OLLY were really about kind of building out the tech stack, building out the tech roadmap, making sure that, the site can support the products that we want to sell, and really more of like kind of like team building years. Whereas this year, it's really now like, here are all the things we have. We have the tech stack of our dreams. So how do we make sure that we're squeezing every drop out of everything we're paying for? Because it's really easy to go buy something that's very expensive, but it's much more challenging to make sure you're getting all the value out of it that is possible. So that's where we're really putting a lot of our effort, is around those tools that we've added, just to make sure we're getting everything we can out of it. And then also sharing those benefits and maybe pieces of knowledge and customer feedback or whatever it is across the business. So making sure that it doesn't stay in our universe, that it's getting out with our brand team, with our product development team, that they're getting all this information and feedback, so that they can use it to make decisions about products and make decisions about marketing. And so that sharing piece, I think, is a really important piece of the efficiency and just the overall like cost of ownership versus value of some of these really expensive tools that we have.
Yeah, I'm so curious to learn more about how you share out information, because I think that is one of the most valuable things that people undersell in the value of D2C, in that having ownership over your consumer, having ownership over your data allows you to really understand your consumer in a way that no other channel allows you to. So being able to give feedback to your brand team of, hey, this brand messaging is working, hey, this brand colors and this kind of photography is actually, resonating with our customer, all the way to the product set around, hey, this kind of product is being bundled with this. Did you ever like consider that this is like a thing that needs to be done? Or, oh, this is like a really interesting insight. We never thought that somebody would look at this product in this way, even based on reviews, right? Like what people say in reviews is such an interesting thing. So, I think the best brands really understand how to allow that information to flow internally. And so how are you guys handling that? And what does that look like for you?
Well, in the first place, it's great when you have cross-functional teams that are like, please give me everything. I want to read everything. And we are really lucky to have that. I've worked at other brands or worked on other brands where that wasn't necessarily the case. They were just kind of like, we just want to keep doing what we're doing. Please stop inundating us with information we don't want. We're really lucky to have a super curious team cross-functionally. I mean, the product development team is just always looking, always thinking, always plotting, kind of what's the next big thing. And I'm glad that you brought up customer reviews, because that's one of my favorite things to talk about. I mean, that's, in terms of like first party data, it like doesn't get much better than that. We started selling a product last year. It was a new product for us. And our customer is primarily millennial women. That's like very traditionally who we sell to. And, it makes sense when you look at the products and it's cool. We introduced a product last year called My Mojo. That's a men's libido supplement. And we've never really sold to men. I mean, we have a men's multi, but what we had kind of learned before is that even in the multi space for men, it was usually like their partners or their wives or their girlfriends or whatever. Like it was somebody buying those for them. It wasn't necessarily the men being like, I'm going to go get some multivitamins.
Right.
So when we launched Mighty Mojo, it was really exciting because I think we kind of assumed that that might be the same case for these. Like we sell a women's libido supplement as well. It is our number one direct to consumer product. It is hot. Everybody loves it. It's probably something that maybe you don't want to buy at Target and put in your basket, have somebody ring you up and then give you a look or whatever. So I think there's part of it that is like, I enjoy buying this in the privacy of my own home. But we knew because of the success of that product that a men's product would probably also do really well. And we had this sort of expectation that women would be buying that for their partners as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what we learned through customer reviews is that men were buying it and men were loving it. And it was also a different demographic than we had expected. So we kind of expected it to be like millennial men. And it really was kind of that older, like, 40 and up range, which I guess is kind of millennials now, but maybe 45 and up, we'll call it that. More of like the Gen X, kind of situation. So it was really exciting because that's like a whole new audience for us that I don't know that we knew that we were going to be able to reach. But in the men's libido space, if you go on Amazon, there's a million and they all look kind of like, I don't know if this is real or not. Like
you're like questioning it.
It looks, I mean, I'm just like, I don't think I would take that. But I think for us, we're an established brand. We already have this trust. We already have this awareness. So for us to make a product like that, I think it kind of was a huge relief to some of these men where they were just like, oh, good, we can buy something from a brand that we know and trust already. And we'll feel good about it. We're not going to feel like, oh gosh, I hope there's not something weird going on here. So I think being a trusted brand helped that a lot. But back to the question, just being able to give that constant feedback around like, here's who's reviewing it, here's who's buying it. And all of us to sort of have this like sense of wonder and excitement around me, having this new audience. And, now we're thinking like, what else can we do with this audience? This is great. They're there. They want to buy from us. They want to engage with our brand. What's next? So yeah, I think it's that sort of feedback loop is really important for all aspects of the business.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful and really special. That's exciting because I think that you touched on something that I think goes understated, but having a team that's curious and just like excited to learn and I'm going to attach no ego with it too, because they don't feel like they already know everything. I think it's unique to the brand that you're working at and not consistent across the board. So I definitely agree. Yeah.
I think that we like to be kind of in that bucket of like strong opinions loosely held, where we have perspectives, but we're also very open to new perspectives. And especially we're very open to data that might indicate otherwise. And that can be tricky too, because data is great until it is counter to something that you want to do or something that you do a certain way that you don't want to change. Or, you have sometimes a team that's like, no, but we're going to do this because it's our aesthetic and this is our idea. And so data can become challenging when you have to be the one that's like, actually, customers don't like that. And it's very frustrating to them. So I think that is one of those great situations where the ego just has to be removed. Like at the end of the day, the most important thing we can do is look at our site, look at our products, look at our business through the customer's eyes. And like that customer empathy is always going to be number one. As long as we can all do that, it's much easier to pull our ego out and be like, this isn't about us. This is about what the customer is like voting with their wallet or writing reviews or calling us or writing in or whatever it is. Like the customer empathy is the number one thing I think in e-commerce you've got to have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So my last question for you, Jennifer, one last one. What advice would you give a new marketing director in their first 90 days?
Two things. One, I kind of already touched on it, and that is always just being customer focused and customer empathetic, understanding the journey of your customer. If you're in multiple channels, understanding how they're different, understanding their needs, understanding their roadblocks, is critical. Like just you can't build marketing. I mean, I think they teach this in like marketing 101 that, the bias around what you like, you're never our customer. Yes. Even if you buy the products, you do not think like a regular customer. And I think that is so important to always keep in mind when you're making decisions and seeking out data that would support what customers actually want versus like what you think you should do. I think that's really, really important. Secondly, I'm glad you brought this up earlier too. It's just be curious. Like you just need to be in a space where you're constantly learning, and you're excited about that. Like if you're not fueled by that internally, that curiosity, then this probably isn't the right business for you. Because things are always changing. And like I said, there's always new tools, there's always new companies, there's always new startups doing something super cool. So if that doesn't feed you and like give you joy, I think you're going to really struggle to kind of move along at the same speed as the business of e-commerce is. And then
I'd almost say, sorry, Jennifer, I'd almost say all of marketing as a whole, right? Like,
absolutely.
I think it's like one of our core values is always ask why. And it's like, just you need to understand why something happened, why you're doing it that way, why it matters. All of those things really are key. So I agree with you.
Even if you mess up, even if you make a bad call, even if you put out a bad campaign, you still learned something. So it's important to recognize that piece of, sometimes you're going to fail. You're not going to win 100% of the time. But even when you lose, you still won because you've learned something really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, I cut you off. Your second piece of advice.
Oh gosh. Okay. What was the last? Oh, planning, roadmap. Think about it.
Yes.
Think about the future. I think this is especially applicable to smaller brands. And OLLY's a great example. We started off as a startup. We were a startup. We were just kind of this little upstart, disruptive business in this space in 2015. And we had disruptive packaging. We had disruptive product. We had disruptive marketing. And it was great. And when you're in a startup, you're making decisions. You're doing it really fast. You're thinking about right now. You're thinking about what you can do to get something out the door. We were acquired by Unilever in 2019. And then it's like suddenly the whole field changes. And you're like, oh, these decisions I made, these were not scalable decisions. So I think road mapping, planning, kind of even around traffic or revenue goals or whatever it is, like when I hit this, I'm going to add this, and that kind of thing, like build your tech stack strategically and try not to make, and I'll give you this example. It's if anybody who's worked in e-commerce is going to be like, oh, when I say this, if you have a subscription program on your website and you want to migrate from one provider to another, it is the worst. It is the worst experience. It is super difficult. That customer data and credit card data, you have to like protect with your life. Oftentimes the provider you're leaving doesn't want to help you because they're mad that you're leaving, but you have to get the data from them or you can't move the customer data. It's so painful. It's really, really terrible. So to back that up, being able to make measured decisions about we're going to do this when it makes sense, will help you grow from something that's small to something that's kind of like, a much broader appeal, much more higher awareness to your brand. But the planning piece, I just can't state that enough because otherwise you're going to end up having to remake decisions that you've already made when you were thinking very short term and you weren't thinking long term about what is going to scale, what's going to grow alongside of my business. That's the partner I want to work with.
Oh my God, please. As an agency partner, roadmap and plans are key. And if it's something you can share with your agency partners, please do. And let them know what's ahead also, because it allows us to plan. And, as a media buying agency, we do a lot of planning because we want to make sure that the dollars are being spent most intelligently at the right times. Right. And so if we know when you're going to launch a new product or put on a new customer experience or change an offer, we can be more thoughtful around how we're going to be investing your dollars. So yes, roadmaps and plans are key. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer. I love this conversation. It was so much fun. If someone wants to find you online, where can people go to learn more about you?
I'm linked on LinkedIn is probably the best place, or you can drop me an email at jennifer.peters@olly.com. I'll be there.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of new episodes. And if you know someone who would enjoy the show, don't forget to share and leave a review. It all helps us impact more brands. If you're looking to improve your paid media, go to weareqry.com and schedule a consultation. We're always happy to chat. See you for the next one.